All right, here's the answers for homework number 8. All right, let's go over them. First problem, I'm supposed to name the x and y intercepts. You find the x and y intercepts by putting 0 in for the opposite variable. So to find the x-intercept, I would put 0 in for y. And I would divide both sides by 3 and get x equals 3. To find the y-intercept, I would put 0 in for x. I would divide both sides by -4 and get y equals -9/4 or -2 1/4. Number 2, I'm supposed to tell if each line would be horizontal, vertical, or neither. A line is horizontal if it only has a y in it. A line is vertical if it only has an x in it. And a line is neither if it's got both in it. So, y equals 9 only has a y. That's going to be a horizontal line at 9. 2x minus 8, or 2x equals -8, that only has an x in it, so that's going to be a vertical line. That would be at x equals -4. This equation has both variables in it, so that's going to be a diagonal line, or oblique as it's called. So that would be neither horizontal or vertical. The slope of that line would be -1/2. This line has both variables in it, so it also is going to be neither horizontal or vertical. It's going to be diagonal or oblique. This one also has both variables, so it is going to be neither horizontal or vertical. And last up, this one only has a y, so that's going to be a horizontal line at y equals 3. All right. Problem 3, I'm supposed to change this into standard form. The first thing I would like to do is clear the fraction. So I'm going to multiply the entire equation by 2. That gives me 2y. That gives me x, and it gives me 6. And then I'm going to move the x over to the other side by subtracting x from both sides. That's going to give me -x plus 2y equals 6. And finally, I want the x term to be positive, so I'm going to multiply by -1, giving me x minus 2y equals -6. Number 4. Number 4, I have to write an equation. So, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up two variables, x and y. I'm going to have x equal the number of $10 cards that I purchase. And I'm going to have y represent the number of $25 cards. Anytime you do a story problem, you must tell what your variables represent in the problem. All right, I now feel like I'm ready to write an equation. I have $285 to spend. So the number of $10 cards that I buy times 10, that would be the cost of all the $10 cards, plus the number of $25 cards that I buy times 25. That would be the total cost of all the $25 cards. That is going to equal $285. And that would be my equation. I've written an equation in standard form to represent the situation. The last thing they asked me to do here is Name 3 combinations of gift cards I could have purchased. Well, I noticed that 10 and 25, neither of those go into 285 evenly, so I can't use 0, but I think I can do this. If I buy one $10 gift card, then that means that 10 plus 25y equals 285. And if I solve that for y, I would get 275 divided by 25, which is going to be 11. Let's see, how about if I buy 5 more? What if I buy 6? I bought 5 more because that would be $50 more, so that'd be equal to 2 less $25 gift cards. 60 plus 25y equals 285. Now I'd be subtracting 60 and I'd have 225, and that would be 9 $25 gift cards. And if I spend $50 more on the $10 ones, that'd be 11. That'd be 110 plus 25y equals 285. And if I solve that for y, I get 175 divided by 25, which would be 7. Those are 3 possible combinations. There are others. That's just my 3 examples. All right, in each of these, I simply need to tell whether they are in point-slope form, standard form, or slope-intercept form. Well, number 5 is clearly in point-slope form. I'm not sure I need to go over that, but there's the point and there's the slope. Number 6 has the y by itself, so that is slope-intercept form. Number 7, again, is clearly in point-slope form. The point was 110 and the slope is -2. And number 8 has the x term, then the y term equals the number term, and that is standard form, right? Number 9. Well, number 9 is totally up to you. If I was doing number 9, as I showed you in the answers, I would use slope-intercept form because the y-intercept is a nice whole number right there. It's 2. And the slope is very easy to get. It's just down 1 over 2, -1/2. So I would use slope-intercept form. But it would be just as easy to use point-slope form, since the slope is easy and a point is easy. It's really your choice. Number 10 is a little bit of a time-consuming problem. Number 10 says I'm preparing a fruit salad and I want the total carbohydrates from pineapple and watermelon to equal 24 grams. 3 grams, let's see, pineapple has 3 grams of carbohydrates per ounce and watermelon has 2 grams. Okay. So all my 3's and all my 2's have to add up to 24. All right, so I'm going to have W equal the number of watermelon grams and P equal the number of pineapple grams. And the equation, I feel like, almost writes itself. Pineapple has 3 grams, watermelon has 2 grams. I want it to equal 24, so 3 times the number of pineapple I use, plus 2 times the number of grams of watermelon I use, adds up to 24 grams. That would be my equation. All right, step 2 is to make a graph of this equation. So I'm going to put watermelon on the y-axis and pineapple on the x-axis, though that could be switched and it would be just as good. And so this is number grams pineapple, I'm sorry, ounces. Yeah, I messed that up, didn't I? Let's go back and fix that. Number of watermelon ounces and number of pineapple ounces. All right, it's per ounce. There we go. All right, so this is the number of ounces of pineapple, and this is the number of ounces of watermelon. And let's see, pineapple. The pineapple has 3 per, so if I used all pineapple, the most I could use is 8. So I think I can go by ones here. 2, 4, 6, 8. And if I used all watermelon, the most I could use is 12 ounces of watermelon. So that's got to be able to go up to 12 on the y-axis. So I'm going to have to go by 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. That's good enough. All right, I personally would graph this by using the x and y intercepts. The p-intercept would be where 3p equals 24, or p equals 8. So the p-intercept is 8. The w-intercept would be where 2w equals 24, or w equals 12. And then I would just draw a straight line connecting those two, and I have my graph. All right, the last thing they want me to do is they want me to give the domain and range. So the domain would be the p-values. Let me create a little space here. So the domain would be the possible p-values, and the p-values go from 0 to 8. So that might be 0 less than or equal to p less than or equal to 8. I know on the answer key I wrote it in interval notation, so here I thought I'd write it in inequality notation. And then last step, we got the range. The range would be all the possible y values, and they, of course, would go from 12 is the most, and you can't have negatives, so 0 would be the least. So the watermelon would go from 0 to 12. And we're done with that one. Number 11, the slope and the y-intercept. So to get the slope and the y-intercept here, I need to get the y by itself. So I would subtract ax from both sides, giving me by equals c minus ax. And then I would divide everything by b. And here is my slope. So my slope is negative a over b. And here is my y-intercept. That would be c over b. All right, next up. Number 12, I'm supposed to graph by using the x and y intercepts. So I'm going to find the x and y intercepts by putting 0 in for the opposite variable. The x-intercept would be at 2x equals negative 16. And the y-intercept would be at negative 8y equals negative 16. The x would equal negative 8, and the y would equal positive 2. All right, so if the x equals negative 8, I'm going to make the axis there, and y equals 2 will be okay to make it there. X equals negative 8 would be right there. Y equals 2 would be right there. That's where my line crosses the x and y axis, and I can just connect them to draw the graph. In the next one, my x-intercept and my y-intercept. My x-intercept would be where x equals 7, and my y-intercept would be where 3.5y equals 7. Well, the x is already done. On the y, I need to divide both sides by 3.5. So, x equals 7. I'm going to put the x-axis right there. Y equals 2. We'll go ahead and put the axis there. X equals 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Y equals 2. Those are my points where the line crosses the x and y axis. And I can just connect them, and I've got my intercepts. Number 14, I need to find the x-intercept, and I need to find the y-intercept. The x-intercept would be where 4x equals 9. The y-intercept would be where negative 6y equals 9. So the x-intercept would be 9/4, or 2 1/4. The y-intercept would be negative 9/6, or negative 1 1/2. So I think I can draw these essentially right in the middle. And the x-intercept would be a little past 2. That's kind of an estimation. The y-intercept would be down 1 1/2 blocks. Again, kind of an estimation. And then you can draw it. All right. All right, these last couple are pretty tricky. I want to find the x and y-intercepts of the line that passes through those 2 points. To find the x and y-intercepts, I'm going to need to find the equation for the line. And to find the equation for the line, I'm going to need to find the slope. So the first thing I did was find the slope, and I did y minus y over x minus x, and it gave me 8/4, or 2. I then went ahead and wrote the equation in point-slope form, and I will use this point, and it would be y minus 4 equals 2 times x minus 6, or plus 6. Because the x is negative, this would be minus negative 6, right? And then I actually would go ahead and distribute the 2. So this is my equation. I could go ahead and finish it off and put it in slope-intercept form, I suppose, by adding 4 to both sides. I'm now in slope-intercept form. So the x-intercept and the y-intercept, well, I already know the y-intercept. The y-intercept is 16. The x-intercept would be what I get when I put 0 in for y. So it'd be 0 equals 2x plus 16, or 2x equals negative 16 if I subtract 16 from both sides. And then when I divide by 2, I get negative 8. So there's my x and y intercepts. Number 16, I need to write an equation for each line in standard form. All right, I'm trying to write an equation in standard form, so I'm going to start by using point-slope form. My line contains this point and has this slope, because it says the same slope as the graph of this line. So this is the point I'm going to use. That's on my line. And this is the slope I'm going to use. And my equation would be y plus 7, right? Y minus negative 7 equals 5 times x minus negative 4. There's my equation for this line I'm supposed to use, but it's in point-slope form, and I was asked to put it in standard form. So I would first distribute the 5 and get y plus 7 equals 5x plus 20. Next, I would take the x term, and I want the x term to be over here. So I'm going to subtract 5x from both sides. And I want the 7 to be over with the 20, so I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. And that's going to give me negative 5x plus y equals 13. And finally, I want the x term to be positive, so I'm going to multiply everything by negative 1. And that's going to give me 5x minus y equals negative 13. And now I'm in standard form. All right, last up, I want a line that has the same slope as that and the same y-intercept as that. Well, that's a tricky one. All right, so I want the same slope as this line. So I'm going to go ahead and put that line in slope-intercept form so that I know its slope. I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides, giving me negative y equals 5 minus 4x. And then I'm going to divide by negative 1 and get y equals negative 5 plus 4x. This line has a slope of 4. So my line that I'm trying to write an equation for needs to have the same slope, 4. I also need to have the same y-intercept as this line. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put this equation in slope-intercept form. I'm going to add 13x to both sides, giving me 3y equals 6 plus 13x. Then I'm going to go ahead and divide by 3 so that I get y equals 2 plus 13/3 x. Well, all I really care about here is the y-intercept, right? This line has a y-intercept of 2. So now I know my slope, and I know my y-intercept. Now I can write the equation for my line. Let's create a little space here. So my line would be y equals 4x plus 2. But I'm supposed to write that in standard form. That's what the directions said here at the top. So the x term needs to move over here. I'll go ahead and subtract 4x and get negative 4x plus y equals 2. And then, of course, I'll go ahead and multiply everything by negative 1 because I want the x term to be positive, and I get 4x minus y equals negative 2. And now I have an equation for the line in standard form. All right?